Hi everyone, welcome back to GameMaker Cast. It's Mickey, and in this video tutorial, I wanted to expand on the AStar pathfinding. What we have in front of us is our simple demo that is pretty much what we had when we finished off the tutorial, except I've added in a crab character instead of following the mouse. So we're going to take this and we're going to change it so it's turn-based and our octopus can only move one square at a time instead of going the entire length as we can see here. We're going to start off with kind of the project that we just looked at. Now, the one thing I want to do is go into the enemy. Actually, let's just go over some of the stuff that I've added here. In the grid init function, I've added an option for the player here. We're using the exact same code that we had as the octopus here, and the only thing we're doing is we're making sure that we also don't collide with that enemy. I fixed up the bugs in the old one, and that was the random range was 0 to -1. We don't want the borders, so we add 1 and take away 2 here. This is probably 2, but I haven't ran into any problems here. And the only other thing I have is a object turn manager. Now, I've used this in another video tutorial, so you can check that out, but if we go over it quickly, all I'm basically doing is creating a DS list, and it looks like I need to destroy that afterwards. And then once everything is in there, I run the alarm 0, and then we'll just add our 2 objects into the list. We shuffle it, and then we call the event user 0, which is this guy, and it will just grab the first instance from the list, tell the instance that it is its turn, and then we remove that instance, which is the first one, and then place it at the end. Really, the only thing we should have here is a cleanup event with a DS list and destroy, and we pass in the DS objects. And that will get rid of any memory leaks that we will have. So technically in here, if I hit F5, you'll see what we have when we started off. It's currently the octopus's turn, but I can move my guy, and we're going to fix that. So let's start off with making it so the octopus, instead of having the entire path, will only have the initial step of that path. So let's load up the object enemy, and let's go to the step event here. So right now we have some of this code where we just say, you know what, if we have a player, then we are able to do stuff, and as long as we are not moving, then we calculate the path here. And this is what the MP path is. I added in this code here, which is a show debug to get the path length. So down here at the bottom, when I run the game, you can see that currently the object enemy is 448 pixels away from the player. So when I move this closer, you can see that this number over here in the output is going further down. So if I were to move right next to it, we have 64, and then on top would be 0. The reason we're going to be using this is it's going to help us tell whether or not we can actually move our object, or if our object is directly on the crab, which would be the game over for us. So we can use this a bit of code right here to figure out if we are actually able to move. So we could say if, and let's actually copy and paste this in here. So if the path length is bigger than our global dot cell size, and for those that don't remember, the cell size is set within the grid init in the create event, and it's set to 64. So that's each cell of our map itself. If we go back here, so if the path is bigger than 64, or I guess we should say bigger or equal, then what we want to do is allow the octopus to move. Now, really right now, we have the entire path already positioned. So we need to figure out what the initial point of that path is going to be. Now there is a function called path_getPoint and X and Y, and these are the 2 functions we're going to use. We need to pass in what path we're talking about, and then what point we want to get. Well, we want to get the initial point, so that's going to be the first one. Now, we're also going to have to copy in this code here, and the reason we're going to copy, let's actually copy this all in. The reason we're going to do this twice is because we want to get the actual position of the cell and then put it into coordinates. Right now, this will give us the center of the path. However, if we take a look at our sprites, our sprites are all in the top left. So it's easier for us just to reuse the code that we have instead of trying to align things with padding and everything else. So let's go ahead and paste the stuff in, and then we will tab it in to make it a little bit more readable. And we don't need these vars anymore because we're already declaring them above. And let's take this path get point X and replace it with the target player. So now we have the X position and we need the Y position. So once again, as long as we are not moving and we have a player selected, meaning that our enemy found the player, we get wherever the player is, we translate the cell into pixels, and then we draw the path. As long as we are able to move on the path, so meaning we are standing beside, above, below the enemy, then we take the X and Y cell of that initial point, transfer it into pixels, and then we draw the path using that initial point. Now if I run the game, we should see that the octopus can only take the initial step. So if I come over here, you can see that the octopus wants to take that initial step up, right, and then down. So if we load up another level, you can see that the octopus wants to go up, and at some point, yes, he will turn that way. Now the next thing we need to do is get the actual turn base working here. Now I have created some variables in the step event where we have whether or not it is my turn. So in the player object, in the step event, sorry, in the create event we have is my turn. In the step event we have a massive keyboard check thing here, and we basically want to encapsulate this whether or not it is my turn or not. So we could say if it is my turn, then we want to let the keyboard the keyboard checks happen, and if they happen, then we could say is my turn equals false. And once again, this is horrible code. I would probably do this a different way where I check whether or not something has happened, and if it's happened, then I just change is my turn to false at the bottom. Okay, so if it is my turn, then we check the keyboard. If is my turn is equal to false, then this is where I want to, with the object turn manager, so we'll say with instance find object turn manager, and we only want that first instance. So with this instance, what we need to do is now we need to call this user event 0, which is this guy right here, which will tell the next object to take its turn. So in here, we'll say event underscore user 0. Yeah, let's just add a little comment. Take next turn. All right, so let's see what we have as errors. It's time for that free game, and this game right now is Battle Chasers, which is a turn-based RPG. It's first come, first serve, so type in the link below and grab your game. Right now it's my turn, so if I move, now my turn has gone. However, we're not telling the squid that it's his turn, and I cannot actually move, so that's working okay. And when it is not my turn, I will say that the crab cannot move either. So we have a small little problem with this guy. So let's quickly do a debug here. So I'll hit F9 and then hit F6 to see what's going on. Once we load, I can see that my turn, so this will set the initial one. So we are getting rid of that one and we're putting the next one in. Now if I go, it's not actually being called. So why is that not being called? So we'll go back to the player. So we're not finding the instance, and I think that's because I need the 0 right there to get the initial one and not the first one. Sometimes, yeah, I can see. Sometimes it's a little difficult to remember which one starts at 0 and which one starts at 1. Now that we have the player done, let's switch over to the enemy. And in the step event, let's go to the create event because we have is moving here. Let's get rid of this global left release. Actually, let's comment it out for now because we are going to be using that. And we are going to say in the step event, if we have a player and it is not my turn, then we are going to path this out. And in here, we have to do something a little bit different because we can't call this path start in the step event, because what will happen is it will just basically keep restarting the path. So let's add a user event, and let's add a user event 0. Let's say start path. So in here, we'll say is my turn is false. And let's go and copy this path start that we had into our new user event. So we're going to make sure that it is not our turn. I guess we'll take that out. We'll just start the path and we'll say other path ended. When the path has ended, we will say my turn equals false. Okay, so now we need a way to trigger this particular user event here. And this is where we would do something in the turn manager. So the only problem with this that we might run into, let's give it a try. We'll say event user 0. And so what will happen is if this were running and it's the player's turn, the event user 0 would be called on this. So right now we don't have anything. We have one on our enemy, which is this guy, but we don't have one on our player. So we might actually run into a bug. Let's see what happens. This guy can't go because we haven't actually done anything. So you can see once I move the crab, he moves, but then it's not the crab's turn anymore. So once that is done, we need to, once again, when the path has ended, just like we did with the player, which is the step event here. The player, not the enemy. We have to call the event 0 on the turn manager. So if we go back into the enemy, we set our turn to false, and then we find the turn manager and say take the next turn. So we didn't run into any bugs, but that is definitely something to watch out for. The other thing you could do is you could say in the turn manager, yes, in here you could say, you know what, if my instance is the object enemy, then run event 0. Otherwise, just run the player. Let's go ahead and hit F5. So it is my turn, so I should move. And then you can see that right now I can keep just kind of going away. And it doesn't matter if I hammer on the buttons. It's all going to be turn-based anyway. So you can see everything is working out fine. So that is how you would get a turn-based grid movement system, where every single time, depending on how you set up your grid, your octopus and crab would follow each other. Now I did notice there is a small bug here where right now it is the octopus's turn, a brand new level, and he can't move. So let's see if we can quickly trace that one down.
A few moments later.
All right, so what's actually happening is in the object turn, when we run event 0, there are times when our enemy hasn't actually gotten to run the step event. And because it's their turn, there is no path to start on, and they end up in an infinite loop. So we need a way to tell the turn manager to basically wait before running that user event 0. The easiest way to do it would probably be to set this alarm to something a little bit higher. So we'll say room speed times 1. So that will give everything 1 second to catch up. And you can see that now it is working. If I hit space again, new level, you can see it's working again. It's my turn as the crab. So everything seems to be working this way. Obviously, it's not the optimal way to do it. However, you can see that it does work and it fixes our problem. So without further ado, I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and hopefully there wasn't too much rambling happening. And yeah, stay tuned for more content. And if you like what you see, don't forget to check out my Patreon channel. Thank you.